And yes, welcome back to Ed Hunts. Today we're going to go through 12 games that CeX don't sell or buy in. But before we start the list, a few rules. First of all, the game must have had a UK PAL release, so if it was just released in America or Japan, it does not count. Second, it must be on a console that CeX already buy in, so no like Wonder Swan, no Panasonic 3DO, stuff like that. The third one is a different port of the game may be bought or sold on another system, but the version I mentioned in this video is not on CeX's systems. And the fourth one is information is correct as of the date of the recording of this video, but that may be subject to change in future. So with all that in mind and in no particular order, run! The first game on this list is WWF Warzone on the PlayStation 1. Developed by Iguana West and distributed in the summer of 1998 by Acclaim on PlayStation 1 and Nintendo 64, WWF Warzone was the first polygonal wrestling game to hit the market in PAL territories with a more authentic feel in mind, after the motion captured and over-the-top WrestleMania the arcade game and WWF in your house. The same engine would be used in its sequel, WWF Attitude, and further releases by Acclaim like ECW Anarchy Rules. Whilst well reviewed at the time, after releases of WCW NWO World Tour and WWF WrestleMania 2000, both made on the Aki engine, Warzone and its fellow Acclaim releases quickly looked tame in comparison. The average selling price of a decent condition complete copy of Warzone sells for between £6 and £10. CeX do sell the N64 and Game Boy version, however, the PlayStation version is considered superior due to the inclusion of the full motion video cutscenes, including this famous promo by Ahmed Johnson.
Hey, if you want to play like that, there ain't nothing between us but air and opportunity, boy. So go ahead, bring your toys and get a ring. Because there ain't nothing on this earth that's going to save you from this sad.
2. The second game on this list is Budokan the Martial Spirit for the Mega Drive. Initially released on the Amiga and MS-DOS compatible operating systems by EA, Budokan received a Mega Drive port in 1991. A martial arts one-on-one fighting game, the player enters a tournament known as Budokan at the Nippon Budokan Tokyo, learning 4 different styles of combat before entering said tournament, including 2 weapon styles. Whereas a physical copy is not available in CeX, the game is playable on a game that is for sale in CeX, which is EA Replay on the PSP, a compilation of retro games released by EA. A decent complete copy of Budokan will set you back around £25, a loose copy around 8 to 10. 3. Number 3 on this list is the game that inspired this list, and that is Shaq Fu on the Super Nintendo. Developed by Delphine Software, no, not that Delphine, and published by Ocean Software, Shaq Fu is a one-on-one fighting game featuring legendary basketball player Shaquille O'Neal, who walks into a dojo whilst heading to a charity basketball game in Tokyo, where he meets an old martial arts master, Lietsu, who sends him to the second world, where he must rescue a young boy named Nezu from the evil mummy Set Ra. Why Shaq is obligated to do such a task, and indeed agrees, is never really explained. A Mega Drive port was also released and had 5 extra playable characters and 3 more playable stages, giving the Mega Drive port a longer story mode. It also had handheld ports on the Game Boy and Game Gear. However, the less said about them, the better. At the time of release, the game was met with a mixed reception. Personally, I enjoyed the game, but then again, I enjoyed most one-on-one fighting games when I was younger. And in retrospective reviews, it has been seen by many as one of the worst games ever made. Currently, no ports of Shaq Fu are available in CeX. The sequel, however, Shaq Fu A Legend Reborn, is currently available to buy and trade in at CeX. A decent complete copy of Shaq Fu on the SNES will set you back around £25 to £30, loose copy around 10 to 15. 4.
Street Fighter EX Plus Alpha.
Number 4 on this list is Street Fighter EX Plus Alpha on the PlayStation 1. Here's a game whose omission from CeX's shelves is a bit of a head scratcher. From the Street Fighter series that deviates stylistically from what came before it, a spin-off of the Street Fighter series, Street Fighter EX Plus A was co-produced by Capcom and Arika and published by Virgin Interactive in PAL territories. The first polygonal Street Fighter game in the series, Street Fighter EX Plus, was initially released on arcade in Japan, November 1996, and later that same year in the US in time for the Christmas holidays. The updated version, Plus A, did not hit European shores until 1 year later after the initial arcade release, and featured the boss Garuda as a playable character from the start. Talking of characters, Street Fighter Plus A introduced 11 new characters to the franchise, including the popular Skullomania, whilst also giving some returning characters new moves and an updated look. My personal favourite is a new character being Doctor in Dark. Well reviewed at the time by many publications, Street Fighter EX Plus A has a mixed legacy, with some looking back on the game fondly, including myself, others happy to cast it to the history books. A decent complete copy of Street Fighter EX Plus A will cost you anything between £30 and £45 on the PlayStation 1. 5. Number 5 on this list is an absolute classic from the PlayStation 1 library, and that is Die Hard Trilogy. 3 different games spread across the Die Hard trilogy of films that had come out by that point. All 3 games differ from one another. A third-person shooter covers the first film in the infamous Nakatomi Plaza. The second film, Die Hard 2 Die Harder, is an on-rail shooter based at the Dulles Airport, where the player can use a light gun or mouse to control the crosshair on screen. Weirdly though, Die Hard was one of the only games on the PlayStation not to be compatible with the official G-Con 45. In Die Hard with a Vengeance, the player controls various vehicles as they joyride through the city of New York, disposing of threats left across the city. The game also received a Sega Saturn port, which is taken and sold by CeX, however was less favourably received by the general public and nowadays less accessible to play, which makes the omission of the PlayStation 1 version very strange indeed. A decent complete black label copy of Die Hard Trilogy will cost you around £10 to £15. It's also worth noting its sequel, Die Hard Trilogy Viva Las Vegas, is only available on the PC in CeX, with the PlayStation 1 version again being omitted from its database. 6. Number 6 in this list is Ice Climber on the Game Boy Advance for the NES Classics Collection. A port of the original NES platformer, Ice Climber received a Game Boy Advance port as part of the NES Collection in 2004. 11 additional NES games were released on the Game Boy Advance in the UK as part of the series. However, Ice Climber is one of 2 in the collection CeX do not have on their system. Whilst the NES version is available in CeX and also available to play in a host of other ways, including on the Mini NES and through various Nintendo Virtual Consoles, to add the GBA version you would have to look elsewhere. A decent shaped complete copy of Ice Climber on the GBA will set you back around £30 to £35, loose around 10. 7. Which brings us on nicely to number 7, which is Xevious, also on the Game Boy Advance, a part of the NES Classics Collection. The second game in the aforementioned NES series that CeX have omitted from their system, Xevious is a vertical shooter originally released in arcades and developed and published by Namco. The NES port was one of the first third-party titles to be released for the NES and sold out in 3 days of its initial release, with Nintendo's helplines being flooded with calls from players needing tips for the game. Like Ice Climber, it is unavailable for purchase or trade-in at CeX, making only 10 of the 12 NES Classics power release games available in CeX stores. Xevious is available in a decent complete shape for around £35 to £45, loose around 15. The original NES release is available in CeX though. 8. Number 8 is Side Pocket on the Mega Drive. Side Pocket is a pocket billiards game originally released on arcade in 1986 by Data East and later ported to the NES and Game Boy, with an enhanced version later releasing on the Mega Drive, Super Nintendo and Game Gear. Personally, one of the best pocket billiards games that I've ever played, Side Pocket has a singular mode for one player, which has a straight pool game and gains another 9-ball game in 2-player mode. A trick shot mode is also available in order to gain extra lives and points. None of Side Pocket's enhanced ports are available in CeX, with the Game Boy version being the only one on their system. Side Pocket is available to play on the Nintendo NSO, which I definitely recommend, and has a fantastic soundtrack to boot. A complete copy of Side Pocket on the Mega Drive will set you back around £25. The SNES version, also unavailable in CeX, is a much rarer commodity. A complete copy could set you back up to £160, even a loose copy around £40.
Game over.
9. A bit of a departure from the retro games now, and number 9 on this list is Overwatch on the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. Now, I'm not going to sit here and drivel about a game I know nothing about, as I've never played Overwatch, but from what I've seen, it is a team-based online multiplayer that's ultimately free to play, but has infamous loot boxes for whatever the game offers, cosmetics or weaponry, one would assume. The game was given a physical release on both PlayStation 4 and Xbox One, and later as a digital download on the Switch. It did get sold in a case for the Switch, but it was one of those digital code only cases that everyone despises. Now, I believe at one point CeX did buy and sell Overwatch, but as of the recording of this video, the Overwatch servers have been down for over 2 years, with no plans in place for them to be put back up, with ideas of integration with the sequel ultimately dashed. The sequel, Overwatch 2, was not released physically on any platform. Possibly the cheapest and most common game on this list, you can get a physical copy of Overwatch, although it would be unplayable for anything between £2 and £5. I've even seen it for as low as 50p at a lot of boot sales that I go to. 10. Number 10 on this list is NBA Jam on the Mega Drive. Now, my local CeX has erroneously bought in NBA Jam on the Mega Drive as the Mega CD version, as you can see here. However, the Mega Drive port of NBA Jam is not on the CeX system. Originally released in 1993 by Midway on arcades and published by Acclaim for consoles, nearly all the other console versions are available in CeX, but the Mega Drive version, in my opinion, is the superior 16-bit port, which makes its omission from CeX a baffling one. A decent complete copy of NBA Jam on the Mega Drive will cost you between £15 and £20. A loose cart around 8 to 10.
He's on fire!
11. Number 11 is Mega Games 2 on the Mega Drive. The fourth and last Mega Drive game on this list, Mega Games 2 is a compilation of 3 Mega Drive titles released by Sega, and the second in the series of compilation games Sega released on the Sega Mega Drive, with there being 4 in total. Mega Games 2 features a Streets of Rage, Golden Axe and The Revenge of Shinobi. CeX may from time to time erroneously buy in copies of Mega Games 2, however this is because they do accept Mega Games 6, which has the same games plus 3 sports titles on the cartridge. Sega released 4 Mega Game compilation carts, 1, 2, 3 and 6, because of the 6 games on the cart, that's why it has been named 6, but CeX only have 6 on their system. A decent complete copy of Mega Games 2 will cost you around £12 to £15. 12. Number 12 is Mortal Kombat Advance on the Game Boy Advance. We finish off this list with one of the worst games in the Mortal Kombat franchise, and possibly one of the worst on the GBA system, based on a port of Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3. MKA was developed by UK-based Virtuecraft and published by Midway and released in PAL territories in early 2002. Having an initial roster of 23 characters to choose from, MKA has just one traditional arcade ladder mode, a broken AI system where the computer character will do moves too fast to block and punish. MKA suffers from the hardware it runs on and is overall a poorly developed game. There will be no other reason to own this unless you are trying to complete a full GBA or Mortal Kombat set. A box copy of MKA will set you back a hefty £70 minimum, with a loose copy around the £18 to £20 mark. It is also only one of 2 physical Mortal Kombat games I am personally missing from my collection, with the other being Mortal Kombat Special Forces on the PlayStation 1, another awful game. And that brings us to the end of the list. But is there any titles that I missed out that CeX don't buy in, or any major ones I missed? Let me know in the comments. Thanks again for watching. If you enjoyed that, hit that like button, consider subscribing. I'll see you in the next one.